The Georgia Southern Eagles travel to Los Angeles to take on the USC Trojans. Clay Helton returns to the Coliseum, and he is a 28.5-point underdog. Now, I've seen Clay Helton and Georgia Southern go into Lincoln, Nebraska, and take down Scott Frost and get him fired. Lincoln Riley is under competitive pressure. He is in a situation that some would liken to Frost's at Nebraska, but I think that those situations are very different, and unlike Frost, I think that Riley's actually a good football coach with a very good staff, and he does a good job of developing his team. I think this is going to be the best developmentally that USC has ever been under Riley, and probably the best developmentally USC has ever been since the Pete Carroll era this year. I think USC is on the rise right now. So let's talk about what we need to see from them against Georgia Southern, who they should beat and pretty handily. I specifically want to mention 5 things, and before I do, make sure to like the video, make sure to hype the video. It's a new YouTube feature that I literally just became aware of today, a few hours before this recording. Helps get us in the algorithm. Same with liking the video. So do those things along with subscribing and hitting the notification bell for my channel, also the USC Football podcast playlist that I created. So that way, if you're especially interested in what I have to say about USC, well, whenever I upload a video or go live mentioning USC, you will get notified via that podcast in addition to the channel notifications, just in case you want that. But let's get into the 5 things right here. I need to see Maiava continue to excel. He had a QBR in the high 90s. Same with Longstreet. He averaged well over 10 yards per attempt. USC averaged over 1 point per play. I think it was like 1.3 or 1.4 points per play. Like, just overall, like offensively. Their points per play margin was insane. Downright insane. And Missouri State's an FBS team. I know they just transitioned from the FCS to FBS, but they're an FBS team. It's not like they did this to an FCS team. I know part of it's a technicality as they just transitioned, but that was really impressive. To hang 73 points in the new era of clock rules, where it's harder than ever to score in the 70s and 80s, as it used to be more commonplace to do that, that is impressive. A large part of that was Maiava. Another part of that was the defense dominating, though they did allow 13 points, and also the rushing offense really taking off in a way that I have not seen it take off outside of maybe parts of 2022, really parts of all the past 3 years under Riley, if I'm being honest. 2022, I think, was the most memorable because their offensive line was the best so far that we've seen under Riley due to some transfers, retaining some USC players, and having Caleb Williams, and probably USC's easiest schedule to date under Riley, if we're being honest too. But it was a really impressive performance, and I think seeing more of that game, if we could get that same effort replicated here, it would be perfect. USC right now, and I'm going to talk about this, they're ranked 6th in FPI. Now, I think part of that is definitely an overreaction. Part of it. But I don't think it's the same overreaction that FPI is making with Ole Miss, who's now at, I think, 4th for whatever reason. Ole Miss does not deserve to be even in the top 10. They kind of, I know USC did this too a little bit, running up the score, but I think Ole Miss did it especially egregiously, and Simmons threw 2 picks, and they're just replacing a lot. I thought that USC hanging the amount of points they did and winning in a big fashion was much more impressive than the way that Ole Miss did. I think there is a real chance, not just based off that game, but based on that game combined with the preseason research that I did, that there is a reasonable chance USC is a top 10 team right now. A very reasonable chance. And yet they're not ranked in any of the polls. That's egregious, even if you think USC is just a fringe top 25 team, which there's also a chance of that. I'm much more bullish on USC than people are for some different reasons than those who are bullish on them. But honestly, I think this team has a lot of potential, and they have an opportunity to show that here. By dominating on defense, they had double-digit TFLs. USC did. They had several sacks. And to average 6 to 7 yards per carry yet again would be exceptional in this matchup. Because Georgia Southern, I think that them being from Georgia, getting some lower level Georgia high school recruits, but nonetheless down south, The 3 stars down there are different than the 3 stars up north, and I would say at this point even the 3 stars in California. It's a different game being played for a variety of economic, political, socioeconomic reasons. I'll just leave it at that. Some that I'm not aware of, some that others have made me aware of. But doing that against Georgia Southern, replicating that exact same game and even score would be like, wow. Because even though Georgia Southern's not a great team, you're showing that your performance in week 1 was not a fluke. And you're building that sample of, okay, USC is able to score 70 times over a multiple game stretch, yes, against bad competition, but that at least establishes a floor and a little bit of an exciting ceiling too. And if the competition gets tougher and the results are similar, that's really where the ceiling begins to establish itself, and USC football can officially be exciting again. Number 4 is USC's depth was a concern in the preseason. Now everyone's healthy, and it was a bad opponent, but once again, being able to rotate in Longstreet, rotate in backup defensive players and offensive players, and excelling would be fantastic. And finally, reason number 5, or not reason number 5, but thing number 5 I want to see, is getting revenge on Helton. Not in the sense that they should be, specifically targeting him and his team and lashing out on him. USC's removed from the Helton era. They've moved on. I don't think Helton's a bad person, but revenge in the sense that they play angry. I think that USC is angry, and I think they should be angry based on their past performances. So play into that a little bit. I think they played into it a little bit in week 1. Do it again here and continue to build that resume of consistently playing angry, tough, big, and fast. And I can't ask for any more than that, if I'm being honest. That might be asking too much of USC, but they have the potential this year to be a national championship contender. And I said that in the preseason, not in a way that Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State are, and then Georgia and Texas, and at the time I thought Alabama. Now I think USC would beat Alabama pretty handily if they were to play tomorrow. That's how bad I think the Florida State game was. But in the sense that USC is a dark horse national title contender. And hey, if they continue to beat teams the way they did in week 1, and they continue to score and dominate opponents that way as the competition gets tougher, they might be a obvious national title contender, even if the books and the public hasn't caught on to that. So that's all I want to see from USC this Saturday. Make sure again to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching, and a reaction video to this game will be up as soon as possible.